You're just joining? Froze my computer. We'll catch the end of the market, and I'll not try and be overclocking it while we're streaming. Glad it started back up. Probably not a good idea to overclock it when it's not running right. That's one way to fix it. Turn it up. All right. Well, buy has another engulfing candle at a resistance. Another chance to short. Glad to know the overclocking works though. It was starting to run real smooth and then frozen.
To that point, the supply chain issues, if we look at the price of the supply chain kind of Fed indexes, most of those have come back down. Companies have, for the most part, told us we've worked through those major issues. We see it too, right, in the data where manufacturing's really slowed down, but services are strong. What I'm curious about are the other inflationary forces that are not supply chain related that might stick with us. Like, how do we get the price of food down? If we're not going to go into a deeper slowdown in the economy, then I would think people get to keep their jobs, keep their salary, they can keep buying groceries at the price. How do you get that, cat out of the bag or close that Pandora's box for the goods without a deeper recession?
Hey trader, yeah, I just crashed my PC.
Yeah,
I was trying to overclock it, I guess.
Is a major pocketbook awareness item is not a major source of the vast majority of Americans' monthly spend.
What about
I
rent?
figured
It's certainly it's rent is huge. Used cars,
not running all that great.
used
Let's just
cars
start
are a weird
overclocking it.
contributor to
So nice get to like
monthly
twice.
price indices.
You've been
as
blessed.
are the implied rent rates. We don't look at housing prices per se. We look at owner's equivalent rent for our inflation index. So, those are generally coming down. Rents have crested in most major American cities. I live in New York City.
I just was playing around with
2022.
I guess the overclock settings.
It remains high. It's just not going up.
I was cranking up to 4.8 gigs or whatever.
The driver of inflation right now is
and it didn't like that.
And that's where I think the Fed's going to have to do some serious reconsideration of their 2% target.
I wasn't going to come back on, but I was like, whatever. Won't set it up. I'll just
after decades of most
keep
people
streaming.
in the middle to lower.
Gotta get the nice yacht thumbnail.
At all. Some wage growth is a really good thing. It's good for consumer spending. It's good for savings. All these are good things. Why we should be engaged in a process of trying to squash.
Why would I flash my BIOS? I've actually had problems with the the BIOS on his motherboard. That's why I had to replace the first one. It was like,
especially given that one of their mandates is employment.
I don't know exactly what happened, but
love the macro conversation. A very interesting mind. Appreciate you.
I've had issues with it before. I don't want to mess with it.
Talk about what you guys are doing specifically investment-wise at River Twice Capital. Thanks for laying out the framework for us, Zachary.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Zachary Carabell, president.
Make trades for you, chat by commands.
Really good,
that would be dope. You guys are probably way better than I do.
Maybe that's why we've got stocks ramping up. We can be on the flip side of a recession soon coming out.
Waited all day for it, but you got your double top, you got your engulfing candle.
What's that mean for Bitcoin? Because the crypto
maybe take profits at VWAP.
Inflation gets out of the box, it's never going away. The Fed will be trapped, and your dollar.
Is kid to war me? Talking about. Well, you would have access to my bank accounts if you were trading for me. Sure, you can pay my overdraft fees. Baby steps to 35. Pentagon says not aware of China and Cuba establishing spy station. The OTC fees. Yes. The allotment. What, the Wall Street Bets Elite? Carvana climbing up. See if it sets up another bull flag here. We're getting towards the end of the day, so might see some profit taking start. Enough to bring it down some. Thing's been super strong today. Hi, dude, not letting go. Wow. It was a bad sign when I read that thing about there's more shorts on the futures than there has been since, like, was it 2008 or something? I don't know what I was saying, but something crazy like that. You know what that means? They're just gonna pump. Burn everybody. Nobody's talking about the squeeze anymore. I might make new highs. Bounce 83%. Firm just escalator up 17%. For support on Carvana at kind of this breakout 23-34 area. That's up there.
Worst compared to stocks since FTX.
I'm looking at Bitcoin's price action versus kind of its own history, right? And what's going on in the market in terms of the crypto market and the regulatory environment and really the interplay between Bitcoin and let's say Ethereum and everything else, because as those of you who follow, crypto regulatory landscape know, whether or not altcoins are security is a very big deal, and that's one of the big questions that a lot of this activity hinges on. And so, Bitcoin's correlation
Well, maybe
with
we're in a big
Nasdaq
bull
as
flag
it
still.
is, I think long-term secular trend for Bitcoin is positive.
What are the underlying driving factors right now? Because a lot of
I mean,
this
that's what it looks like.
exuberance from stocks seems to be coming
We're
from
bull
the
flagging above
idea
a breakout.
that the Fed no longer has to fight inflation. As far as
Bullish.
the crypto narrative goes that I'm familiar with, it's all about inflation, runaway inflation. What
There
do
was
you
our
see
chance to
as
come down after that
that
engulfing, and
now as
it
part of the thesis?
did
Yeah,
not
I remember last time we got into a pretty
allow it.
interesting inflation versus Bitcoin
We might have a
discussion.
big Green
I think,
Friday.
back to that, we still think Bitcoin is a long-term inflation killer over any reasonable time period, measured in years, not
Don't see why we
sort of
wouldn't.
days. And that continues. I think the utility of Bitcoin is to be effectively a sovereign monetary instrument, a digital version of gold. And it's still in the S curve of adoption. I think if Bitcoin were widely accepted and institutionally held on the same basis as gold, et cetera, then we
Yes.
can be having a different discussion about its correlation, et cetera. But I just think that there is so much kind of noise in the adoption curve that these movements to the upside or to the downside can be exaggerated. Of course, we all want them exaggerated to the upside, but you don't always get what you want. You got to be a little bit patient. We're patient investors.
All right, I like the Stones reference there. You can't always get what you want. Greg, tell us about at Osprey Funds, where you guys have the Bitcoin Trust, a few other of the DeFi's, Polkadot, Solana trusts available for private placements as ways for people to get access to this industry. I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, a couple of years ago, there was talk about Coinbase looking at Osprey as an acquisition. I know that was, I think, years ago, but what is your relationship like with them now? How do you assure investors that, if one of these exchanges, what if like Coinbase goes the way of an FTX or the SEC
Good
shuts
story,
down, will that
Kitty.
affect your business at all?
No. So all of our assets are custodied by qualified
Coin
custodians.
up
Coinbase
2.5.
is one of the ones that we use.
Still
And
filling
we
that
feel
gap.
very comfortable with those processes and our control over those assets. Our mandate is to create compliant regulatory vehicles that investors can use to access crypto. And this
I might add to my
is
position
hugely
on
topical
Dish
right now.
for the
Got
next
Gary
few
Gensler
days.
asking the exchanges to register. In some kind of manner of putting it, our vehicle competes against direct ownership of crypto. And I've been asked a million times over the years, like, why would I ever want to own a fund if I can just buy crypto directly? And our answer, amongst other things, has been, these vehicles are created in a way that's compliant with SEC rules and privately placed and in some cases traded in the secondary market. Not to suggest anything
Baus is halted.
I'm not qualified to make those
Whoa, halted to the
determinations. I think
upside.
they've actually done a really
Through
good job
VWAP.
of trying to register with the SEC.
End of the day, same way it
Going
started.
down and speaking to them. As far
Volatile.
as I can tell, haven't been in those conversations, but we view Coinbase very positively in this industry, and I think they're trying to do the right thing. It's just a landscape of regulatory kind of rules and requirements that are really meant to address stocks and bonds. And you've got
330
decades that have passed since anything's changed. And so it's really difficult for these exchanges to register in a way that makes any sense. And so you've got this kind of stalemate happening. And our hope is just that Congress actually uses all of this angst to make a move and to clarify a few things that would unlock a lot of these platforms from this regulatory quagmire they found themselves in.
Quagmire.
Any risk that it goes south and the SEC really cracks down and suddenly you got a custodian assets elsewhere? Do you hedge by moving those Coinbase assets anywhere else in the meantime until the situation's resolved?
I mean, the SEC sued Ripple 2.5 years ago. That case is still ongoing, right? So I think any lawsuit like this is going to play out over years. I think there's a legitimate question as to the clarity needed for these exchanges to operate in a way that the SEC wants them to. For example, if you go in and register as an exchange, and then everything that you're trading is deemed a security, and you need to have financial statements produced by the issuer, you need to have 10 Qs and 10 Ks. Like, who's going to do that for Bitcoin? Who's going to do that for some of these other cryptocurrencies? It kind of doesn't make sense, and so things need to be addressed, and it just seems like neither side is willing to. Well, I should say industry participants have suggested frameworks to the SEC. The SEC, as according to my knowledge, hasn't accepted any of those. But the SEC is a rulemaking body. They need the Congress to act over the top, and so that's really where the onus is.
Got it.
Everyone else deserves it though. Yeah.
How about we distribute it all across the ledger? Each Bitcoin owner can fill out a form. All right. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate the conversation.
Likewise.
All right. Have a good one. Absolutely. Greg King, CEO.
That's why I'm in it, just to support ABC.
Keep moving. We got some trades when we come back. Tom's looking at the VIX for a trade. Things are getting sleepy out there, so maybe short the VIX.
Yeah, we might get one last blow off the top. I mean, on the daily, this looks bullish. Bias is resumed. Ripping. Salted down, maybe. We got a gap and go, a bull flag, all above a breakout level. I don't know. That looks bullish. Pretty bearish on the outcome, huh, Granite? Starts up 14. Dude, these candles are wild. What is this stock doing? Just the strangest price action for like a solid month. Like, it's not that strange, but it is strange. It's been the smoothest climb with like the hugest intraday candles. Just like huge candles on a steady climb. Wild swings. Feel maybe dumb for not have been trading it this whole time. I don't know. Just kept thinking it's getting to the top, and then it does, and then the next day it rips up 15%. Just intraday on the options would be crazy killer. So many ways to make money in the market. So many ways to lose money. Look at these options on here. What they've been doing. Pretty good amount of liquidity on the chain. Very good. Here's the at the money right now. What the heck? 25 cents today. Going up to $1.25. Maybe getting puts now. Yeah, why not? Okay, got weekly puts. When's the last time it's had 2 big green days in a row? Been a while. Keep it stupid simple. I got the weekly 32.5 puts.
If you're worried about the markets, I think this unusual option activity that I saw today kind of fits that mold. That, hey, if you think the market's going to turn around and go lower, maybe start to fall here over the next month and a half. Buy cheap insurance with VIX.
Yeah, and being a Friday, people taking profits.
All right, good trade. Yeah. Interesting one.
Maybe it'll be good.
Break even. So you need to get a nice pop.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to get a sell-off. You got to get a real sell-off. You got to get 25 bips next week. 25 bips next week, this trader's in the money. That would be my guess.
Yeah,
I mean, they hike. That's how low the odds are right now.
I would expect the VIX probably.
Can't believe the SPY today, man.
Close and then
Just
start picking back
fully
on Monday.
Feels like tomorrow we could
still just consolidating this larger bull flag.
We could just melt.
Everything looks bullish.
What's the 4,300 level is about 20% bounce off of those October lows. Does that signal a new bull market?
Technically, yeah. But
volume kind of tapering down. Maybe is a bear sign, but
Willie Delwish was outlining to us the case for why we shouldn't necessarily call it a bull market.
Right.
Lizando too, at the point that when bull markets form, they have a lot more breadth.
Right.
This one hasn't. But the technical purists would say percent basis. All right, whatever. We all agreed, centuries ago it's 20%. Right. Whatever. All right, let's keep trading here. Lucid. How come there's so much bullishness in cars today? Carvana and Tesla, and then Lucid's stuck. What's the deal? Yeah. Everything else in autos is rallying.
Lucid was up earlier on in the session. Tesla's up 10.
When you say 1,000 people are going to be not so happy, probably. You're thinking probably it's going to, shareholders are not going to have value. I'm more referring to that. I totally agree. People need to be more cautious about it because it's definite possibility that it does become worthless for us.
China as their next market. That's going to be a big market for them. A lot of people want those luxury cars.
Wow, it's still ripping up actually. It's a zero hero play more or less. It's like the only way to look at it. I mean, I suppose it could just go up a bit.
The windows here. Maybe that's why Tesla's rallying today.
I guess it's possible. Reason I'm not thinking it will. I think if we have any value, it's going to be at least 5x from where we are now.
As we get more news. July 7th strike calls, over 14,000 of those were bought. Average debit of 50 cents on those, so that break even is $7.50 over the next 43.
I guess I didn't need to get those puts right now because it's like
the stock has fallen from.
Doesn't usually do after hours moves.
I don't look at percentages.
Just doesn't intraday.
I would just say, hey, you need to get above 7.5.
It could be a day like this tomorrow on it also. So
yeah, somebody's setting up for some positivity here.
You have a rip day, consolidation,
all right, looking for a rally.
dropping. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it'll be a big drop day.
Yeah, buying calls here in Boeing. Stock's having a good day. Just below 52-week highs at 221 that we hit in February, and there were call buyers out there. Also, 787 Dreamliner news, kind of bad yesterday. Yeah. But if you look at the call buyers that we're seeing here, June 16th, so these expire in 8 days, 220 strike calls. Traders buying over 15,000 of those. Average.
But what are people willing to lose? I mean, no one wants to lose any money.
Break even at 223.
Like I like to say that and think that's true, but
only about 1.5% above the current share price.
We don't lose money.
Volume, about normal daily average.
I'm moving up more.
Some bad news earlier in the week, kind of rebounding here solidly today.
All right. Yeah. What did they have? One of the parts was like not working or something on the
It's
supply
not
line?
working. It was the wrong size. They don't have to ground any of the existing planes. I just flew a 787.
Yeah.
Great
we heard.
flight.
Okay.
Yeah, but they said they'll be able to fix it without review from the FAA, but they caught it themselves.
Yeah. All right. I'm glad they let us know, but okay. Shouldn't be. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah.
Bullish trades and a bearish one in the VIX. Bullish one in VIX, actually, which is bearish stock. So we got 2 bull trades from Tom. Thank you, Mr. White. Coming back, let's talk some futures. Let's talk commodities with the move in crude oil. That's for
Market was
Chino.
way too bearish sentiment today.
Walk us through a big drop in smart.
And to rally back up.
Cloud company doesn't look like the rest.
Didn't actually reach the highs though. These highs, just reached yesterday's highs. I guess we still have 20 minutes. We very well could rip up to there. Looks like it might want to even. Yeah, we might get a 10-minute move up. Those highs. Barbecue coming down there. Got about 15 minutes to go. Buys ripping up there. Those upstart puts are up 20%. I don't want to day trade them though, so I think I'll probably just hold till tomorrow. I could day trade him. I'm gonna lose a lot of theta overnight. Might as well. I've got new high of the day on SPY. It's going for, I think the high's back here, 429.58. See if we can get upstart back to VWAP. Oh, late day.
What was otherwise a pretty strong quarter from the company, things still do look pretty optimistic, at least per
Investments are dearest.
from analysts. So we did see this company report, like I said, not very disappointing earnings yesterday after the close, but the main focus here was the fact that they had a billings miss and free cash flow for the year in terms of their outlook did fall short of street consensus at the time. This also just followed last quarter when the company did issue a conservative outlook amid a tough business, spending environment. But a Guggenheim analyst who has a buy rating and a $57 price target said small to mid-sized business transactions and elongated sales cycles were really the main culprits behind this report and, of course, this sell-off today. They said the bottom line here is that macro softness is something everyone.
Oh yeah, we were looking at Smart before.
There's nothing in Smartsheet's model that would prelude it from achieving their long-term free cash flow characteristics that they would expect from most software companies with
They have
the same
earnings?
scale and maturity. They believe they're facing a tremendous greenfield opportunity actually, and stands as the most enterprise-ready solution in its class. So still rather positive. D.A. Davidson, who also still has a buy rating and a $57 price target, also pointed to the macro weakness despite the strong results for this quarter, and was a little bit more cautiously optimistic, saying they are still delivering upside to their overall margins. Although they do see little downside to some of these current numbers just released, there is a degree of upside that's now difficult to gauge when looking at this company. So I would say take that with what you will, because when we see these massive sell-offs to the downside, I always like to get clarity. Was it that bad? And it seems like, at least the read from the street, it wasn't. I mean, of the 21 analysts that cover this name, 17 do still lean more bullish. And the fact that we are seeing shares down almost 18% on the session, but they're still up on the year and still up 7.5% over the last 12 months. I know not necessarily the strongest performer in the software realm, but all things considered, I think that it's important to put into context when you see these massive moves to the downside.
And I
guess. But that's a meaningful sell-off here today, and if they're looking for all-time highs, like I said, yeah, big, rough sell-off.
But also look at where we were ahead of this earnings event. I mean, that's the other thing, is expectations for this name were so high, it was almost priced to perfection, which I think puts the stock in a difficult position.
Analysts looking for a high might get stuck waiting. Thank you, Jenny Horn, for the Smartsheet sell-off. Not a lot else in cloud, down 17% today. Not a good look next to peers continuing to firm up. Almost as quiet as the VIX we've been talking about today is the crude oil world. Bob Iacchino joins us.
We've got a big futures expiration next week.
Here. When is crude going to do something interesting, Bob?
Next week.
Patrick DeHaan from Gas Buddy.
Next week should be very interesting.
Really
I think we have Powell.
He does great work.
Fantastic.
Probably the quad witching.
Cheek posted that there was a flash crash today on Twitter. I actually responded.
Buy new high there.
To him, like, Patrick, this is hardly a crash. Don't start. Simply because we got below $70 and then popped back.
GME back down to VWAP 2131, down 18%.
Responding much more to the perceived weakness that we're starting to see, cracks in the economy, even the labor market, even cracks in the labor market that we're slowly starting to see. That even with the supposed million barrel cut that the Saudi Arabians are going to absorb basically on their own, still not going to prevent Russia from doing anything, not going to prevent the others. We don't even know what the May compliance looked like. I think to the frustration of the Saudis, we're looking at an economy that the manufacturing sector is weakening, so you're not going to have that demand. The China reopening never opened. It never seemed to have had that excess demand. India's doing really well. The U.S. is slowing, and we're going to come out of the summer driving season without that bump. So this weakness to me that we're seeing, even though it's not breaking down, staying in this range kind of makes sense to me.
I would guess it kind of fits into your economic bearish case generally. What about this morning's jobs print? I mean, are these connected here? Are folks, you know...
There you go, SPY. Look at it rip. 10 minutes of Fugazi.
Ebbing lower for the economy? So crude will
Retesting the highs from back here.
If you look at the hours worked,
Might even make a new high.
farm payrolls number, it's a cycle low. Okay, now it's still not a bad number. It wasn't a horrible number. But we started off at 35 hours in basically January, and we have not really had an uptick in hours worked. Companies usually cut hours before they cut workers. Now, we saw that tech took the lead. Tech had supposedly overhired during the pandemic. So the layoffs in tech were one thing. The layoffs in the rest of the economy, in my opinion, unfortunately, are going to start. They may not start till the third quarter of this year, but when you look at the PMI numbers, you look at the increase in credit card applications, credit card.
Let's get a big old flush back to open.
Admittedly so.
You can do it in the last 10 minutes. I've seen it.
Auto loan payment delinquencies and repos both increasing again. not at
Coin's
critical
up 2.5.
levels, but increasing. Yeah, we're starting to see some cracks. A lot of people say the jobless claims number has to be above 330, 340,000 before you worry.
Well, it hit that high.
But it has to be in the uptrend it's currently in before
Not time to top. That's the short to take.
Like that good description of the technical situation.
Fighting it all day, but finally made it.
Bob Ichino, founder and chief strategist, Path Trading Partners.
We're either still in this range,
In the 70s.
or we're breaking out tomorrow and ripping. Breaking out its bull flag.
Director of Trading and Derivatives at Charles Schwab. Colin's a director and fixed income strategist. What do you think, Colin? Was that a lousy print this morning for the economy?
Well, it was a sign that the labor market could be loosening a little bit. We've seen some choppiness with initial jobless claims, but this was, a noticeable surge relative to what we've seen over the past few weeks and few months. Now, one print doesn't necessarily make a trend. So we'll obviously be keeping an eye on what this means over the next few weeks and months. And we're not going to jump to conclusions that this means that we're suddenly going to see layoffs pick up week after week after week. I think the Fed will probably agree. They want to see labor market conditions loosen a little bit. They're not going to change their tune based on just one print, but it definitely makes the case that they'll probably hold at next week's meeting. The markets are pricing in a very, very, very small chance of a hike next week. Most officials have commented that they'll probably skip a hike, and we tend to fall in that camp as well. If we continue to see negative prints on initial jobless claims, maybe the labor market loosen even more than expected, maybe that pulls forward the potential first rate cut, but we're still in the camp that they'll likely pause through the rest of this year.
The pause, then, so if it's a pause, then it's not a skip. It's like these words, I feel like they actually do have some pretty important meaning this time around, Randy, as much as we kind of like to.
All the good cash all the cash grid puts that are coming up on the screen are all these stocks that have had like 100% move in the last month.
Hawkish, but
I need a better screener.
Pause, then, I guess they've, then what bark,
I bet these are all good.
behind the bark.
Well, skip pause. I mean, again, it's six of one, half a dozen of another. I think skip implies that they're almost certainly going to not hike next week, but that they intend to probably hike in July. Whereas a pause, I think, implied that they were going to wait indefinitely, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 months to see how the data shakes out before they decide whether or not they want to hike again. So that's the
Carvana's holding up really well coming to the end of the day.
Deal, I don't think. Interestingly enough, though, as you were talking about that labor, that initial jobless claims number, it was the first time we've seen an uptick for a couple of years, or it's at the highest level in almost 2 years. It doesn't really change the calculus. Like what Colin said, I agree. In fact, the probabilities in the futures market went from about 35% down to only 30%. That's minimal, which tells me that it was already sort of baked in that they're not going to hike next week. The only thing that could possibly impact it, and even this I don't think, will be the CPI, of course, which comes out the day before. That number would have to be astronomically high to really change that calculus, in my opinion.
How high is astronomical, Randy?
Well, I mean, probably a full half percentage point, or even a full point above what was expected. I just don't see it, though. It's really not likely. If you look at if the year-over-year changes, now granted, there's some base, effect here going on. You actually see that we've actually had increases, but that at a lower rate all the way going back to June of last year. So for almost 12 consecutive months now, we've had a lower year-over-year increase. So I expect that trend's probably going to continue.
The thing that kind of gets me is why, if the message is that we're going to pause and then talk up the hike next month, then I guess that means
There's your 5 minutes.
Next month. If we need the hike, why give inflation another month to fester, right? Why not just do it now? I mean, I'll give one last thought on this call, and then I want to talk about what to do about this. But I mean, is the Fed going to be playing these semantic games, trying to convince us there's something behind it?
They could, Oliver. We put the probability or likelihood of a hike in July at a little bit lower than what market expectations are indicating.
Wow.
Like Randy said, the expectation for next week is very low, about 25% or so. If you look at July, it's over 80%. I think that's just too much because the Fed has acknowledged that there are for a hike in July.
That's crazy.
Where the Fed has acknowledged that there's lags in their policy. And I think if we look at the Bank of Canada, for example, They hiked earlier this year, and they
Where's those
called
up
it conditional
6.5?
cuts. And here we are a few months later in June, and they hiked because they saw that inflation was still elevated.
Upstart
The labor
bouncing
market was
there.
still tight. I think the Fed
Consolidating at
can
the top,
take
at the
some
highs here.
signals and signs from that playbook where
Guess I'm holding till tomorrow.
one meeting pause isn't much of a pause, and it really won't allow them to see how the economy is evolving based on all those rate hikes. They really need more time to let that
It's the most
down.
Thursday
So
ever.
we probably think there's less of a likelihood of a hike in July than the markets are pricing in there. But if we see inflation, still remain really, really hot, then it's certainly possible.
Okay, so if we start with that baseline framework that even the hawkishness that's priced in is too hawkish, I mean, then I guess stocks are going to moon. VIX is going where? Sub 12 in that situation? I mean, what else could get in the way? It seems like this has been our
Nice,
biggest
Cameron.
concern. We're arguably
Genius.
Perfect combination of dovish Fed without economic collapse.
Yeah, I mean, the economics aren't spectacular. Certainly, we've seen a slowing in a lot of the inflation gauges over the last several months, but not all of them. And I think that's where we have this mixed bag. Certainly, the labor market's been one of the ones that's held up well. And again, today's initial jobless claims may be one of the first signs that we're seeing a little bit of softness there. And I think, again, as Colin alluded, or as he said, Jay Powell wants to see a little bit of softening in the labor market, but I don't think anyone wants to see a big spike in unemployment and lots of mass layoffs. No one really wants
I'm
that.
doing my part too.
The Fed's constantly talking about they've got to get
All doing our part.
under control or things are going to be really bad. And I'm
Dang,
like,
coins almost filled that gap. I should have averaged in.
I mean, to me, I'd rather pay higher.
You don't always get a bounce like this though. I was nervous with that news.
So, but yes, volatility has come down substantially. In fact, it's at a 40-month low today, so almost a 4-year low.
If people are closing shorts of any substance, you'd see the price go the other way. So I don't think so.
Historically low level, and it certainly isn't unheard of, and it also isn't a sign that we're going to have a sharp mean to the reversion to the mean where we get a big spike. That doesn't typically happen.
AMC pushes against it? No, dude. AMC people love DRS.
They tend to last for several months. So
I've only seen them DRS in there.
This week is unique in the sense that we're between earnings season. We don't have a whole lot of economic data. The Fed's quiet, so there's just not a lot going on. So it's a little bit of a news vacuum. That all is going to change, I think, next week when we start getting inflation gauges and the Fed meeting.
Great context on how long the VIX can stay down here. I kind of personally thought we never get back to the 2017 days, but we are really challenging them right now. So yeah, the point too about the doesn't necessarily mean there's a huge VIX reversion higher. Maybe that options trade Tom saw earlier in VIX is not going to pay out. That's neither here nor there. Colin, close this out real fast. I mean, does this then mean that everyday investors should be like totally rethinking their bond portfolio and just scooping up treasuries hand over fist right now if the market in its dovish pricing is still not dovish enough?
Well, I don't know about hand over fist, but we do think investors and a lot of our clients here at Schwab should be buying bonds today and taking advantage of the yields we're seeing right now. But when we talk about everything we've talked about on this program, Oliver, and will they or won't they hike? How long are they going to pause for? I think what's most important for your average everyday investor is that yields are high right now. The yield curve is inverted, so we're seeing higher short-term yields than we are with intermediate and long-term yields, but this is an opportunity. So regardless of if the Fed hikes or not, regardless of how long they hold at that peak for, we think investors who've been waiting for this opportunity and waiting on the sidelines
Upstart should offer shares
to lock in these higher yields. We'd take advantage of that right now.
Need to.
Because again, yields are at
Need
the
it.
highest levels we've seen since really the end of the
Holy
financial
bell.
crisis,
I did
and
not see that coming.
anymore.
There it is. I mean, the show we watch doesn't like do any kind of countdown. They're just having their normal show. Like the market's not going on. Oh, there you have it. High rally today. Back up to the high. Just still seesawing. So really consolidating on a bull flag, on a breakout. So might have a move up tomorrow. It might be last final kind of false breakout push, or this is all legit and we keep going. I mean, it looks bullish. It does. It doesn't look like... I mean, even yesterday and the day before, it still looked like a bull flag was being built. I guess I was letting my sentiment drive it down too much, because if that bull flag was being built after the breakout, after the new high. Let me look at the weekly here. It's just such a long time since we were this high. It's hard to even. Wow, dude, look at that. That is crazy how high it's come since what, October? Yeah, there's not like a divergence or anything. It's legit. RC runs for president. I'll be ready to short it, but maybe tomorrow will be a good short. Maybe it'll gap up and just kind of sell off all day. Kind of one of those big red candles that started much higher. Weird though, because I mean it like we're above that level, and we've consolidated in a bullish formation. So it just depends on which way it breaks out, I guess, at this point. Breaks this way or that way. Still keeps hitting that as resistance. I guess today we did make a new low, but it just kind of wicked down there, so. Interesting. Popcorn holders believe DRS was a short inference scheme to remove retail from the equation and short even more. Dude, I don't know. Is that recent? Because I've only known AMC to be pro DRS. I just watched a YouTube video instead. He's a genius. Yeah, if you buy a share of AMC, you get like a free popcorn still, right? Is that still a thing? I think that's cheaper. If you get a large popcorn, a share of AMC is definitely cheaper. One of you guys on chat was telling me you did that. That's hilarious. Yeah, that's it, guys. Computer's not broken. I'm gonna have to maybe redo the paste, or I might try the other one. The like, I don't know, whatever it is, the material where it's not a paste. Or that's maybe what I did actually. I can't remember when I put this thing back together. I maybe used the material. Maybe that's why it's starting to fail. Popcorn at $50 a share. That could be it, huh? I thought those things lasted forever. The non-paste thermal paste. What are they called? Like a thermal mat. Called. Yeah, it's like a silicone thermal pad. I think this is actually what I used. Part of the reason to use this though was because it's supposed to never need to be replaced. No, I think people were getting free popcorn. I hope this lasts for. No, I mean it lasts, but it can get kind of, it's hot and then cold and all the heat cycles. I feel like it can I don't know, get burned, get dried out. But I think I maybe used one of these thermal pads. Maybe that just got too many heat cycles or something. I got Arctic Fox or whatever. Like I got a good one if I use thermal paste. And same with the pad. Use a pad. Works good for you. Wow, yeah. CFRX. Maybe you had the earnings or something. Earnings. CFRX, SIEN, DocuSign. For all the aftermarket runners. CFRX top of the list. Pride is up after hours. Lordstown Motors. Here's another one that's going bankrupt, I think. You can still contact them. Yeah, if I have a pad on there, if I take it off and have a pad, I might just try the paste. Because I don't think my pad, I mean, or the paste ever, it's a mess and I don't like to use it, but I don't think I ever had problems with it. Like, slowly, eventually drying out, or even though I feel like it probably would eventually. But oh, what do they get? They got NFTs. AMC did NFTs. Remember that. They heard all the speculation about GameStop and NFTs, and they said, hey, we'll have an NFT. Got like a picture of a golden bucket of popcorn or something. Man, that was a long time ago, it seems like. Before all you guys were here. Back when I just made videos. All those people aren't around anymore. Alright, well, Spy doing its thing again. Barbecue, I wonder if we're gonna get some kind of news for the sell-off today. Honestly, it's unusual. Or something on GME still, because all this volume. Look at that, 19 million, more than yesterday. Yesterday was 18. So last 2 days volume seems strange. Good night, yeah. Hopefully, I'm gonna cut off. Maybe I'll see you guys on Twitter Spaces. Might have a little beverage. Have a Spaces and talk about my broken computer and this stock. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. Sub up, like up, comment down. Happy money sticks around. Thanks for the gifted membership today, Ace. Appreciate it. What'd you guys do on the likes? How'd you do? I guess that was the other one. I don't even look at the likes. You guys did good. Thanks, Buzzin'. Thanks, Cameron. Thanks, Kitty. Thanks for the help. Thanks, DIY. Rumpkin. Jez. Yes. Thanks, thanks guys for hanging out and the support. Cheers, Buzzin'. Yeah. Enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll see you on Twitter.